It's wonderful to have Liesl Tesch join us for our monthly In Conversation event today. My name's Lucia Heath. I'm the CEO of Women for Election. It would be wonderful if you could take yourself, just give us a quick wave. I know some of you might be doing lunch, beaming in on the slide from work. Hopefully no one's driving, but just so that we can see you quickly. I see some familiar faces, so thank you for joining us. I am actually beaming in today from the lands of the Bidjigal people of the Eora Nation, and I would like to pay my respects to elders past and present. And also, on a personal note, say that it's my belief that until we reach Makarrata or treaty with First Nations people in this country, then our ability to move forward together in harmony is compromised. So thank you for joining us. We love running these sessions every month, and we deliberately record them so that we can pass to our thousands of alumni across the country. But our mandate for running these is always the same, and that is we feel the Australian public is overly informed on the negatives of going into politics, the negatives of going into politics. But we don't get enough information on the positives of what people achieve, of who they inspire. And that is just a fabulous segue to our guest this month, Liesl Tesch, the member for Gosford, who's going to be sharing her experience, her journey into politics with you, because every time, the journey is different. And there's so much to be learnt about everyone's individual journey. And your journeys will equally be different. But the more we share these stories, the more you can see yourselves in them as well and picture yourself as a future elected member. So, Liesl, how's that for an introduction?
I don't know, I'm just crying with emotion because this is the next generation of women going to be in the parliaments or government levels across Australia. It's amazing. It's exciting.
Well,
and
it is exciting.
And also catching the influence you already have. You're not in this room, in this Zoom. If you're not ready, you already don't have tendrils of influence across your community. So thank you for the work you're already doing.
That is beautifully said, actually. And if there's one thing that Women for Election love to connect, it is the work that women are already doing in their communities every day. PS, always have been. And the role of an elected leader and how they are so similar. So let's talk about your journey. And what we're going to do, so everyone knows, is there'll be an ability to ask questions of Liesl. But we're just going to do a kind of short Q&A, and then it's going to be over to you. So Liesl, in that spirit, I don't want to talk about politics straight up. What I do want to talk about is what you were doing with your life before politics. What was a typical day for you, if there was a typical day? What was your career?
I don't think there was a typical day, but I'd like to start by acknowledging that I'm on beautiful Darkinjung country on the central coast of New South Wales. So anytime you want to come here and spend some money in my community, bring it on. It's gorgeous. But no, I was a high school teacher and a Paralympian. So I was running two jobs for I competed in 7 Paralympics. So that's 4 years apart. That's a long, long time. So I was working full-time as a high school teacher, and I competed as a basketballer at 5 Paralympics and sailed at 2. So that was sort of my everyday life. Like, people say, oh my God, how do you manage being in Parliament? It's like, well, I was already working every single weekend I was playing basketball or sailing or whatever else, and night times when I was basketballing, I was training. And so I've lived a pretty full-on life. And then through that, I think it gave me a voice through teaching, but also through my advocacy with people with disabilities. Like, as an older person with a disability, you become a bit more of a standing up, hey, that's not okay. And then as a teacher, I did my master's in special ed because a person with a physical disability, I'm a wheelchair user, after a mountain bike accident when I was 19. But I did my master's in special ed. I didn't do the policy components because I think the policy is boring. Who would have thought that? And because I was also advocating for people with intellectual disabilities, and then that was sort of my journey. So every day was full on. My school holidays were taken up primarily travelling to overseas countries and training or competing. And then I'm a geography teacher and I'm passionate about overseas, like international development or development per se, community development at every level. But my girlfriend and I, when I changed from basketball to sailing, I had more time because I wasn't driving to Sydney 3 nights a week. So we set up an international aid organisation. So I'd also travel to do aid projects using sport for social change in the school holidays. Like just
Is that all?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but so many amazing things, and I'm sure I could pass the mic to the other women on this chat too, who are all doing things out in their community or things in their life or in their career.
And I just need to say, don't underestimate what you are doing. What you are doing in your day-to-day life is already powerful, and the stuff you're doing is like, I never put this together as a clump of things that would take me to Parliament. I just did this stuff because I love it. So just keep doing the stuff that your heart sings to your heart, because I think that's what we need in the Parliament, a bit about women in there, because we're true to our hearts. And it's not the BS stuff, that I think the power-related stuff. We do what is right.
Beautifully said. Led by the desire to do good for community, not led by ego. Well, and let's talk. So let's move. So you've done, some amazing things. You weren't even thinking of politics at a certain, too many hours, not enough hours in the day by the sound of it. But so what was it? What was there an aha moment? Was there a trigger that galvanized you going, I want to run? Was it a slow burn? Was somebody else involved championing you? Like, give us a sense of that moment.
And it's interesting. I actually played 5 years in the men's league in Paris, or in Spain, a year in Spain, 3 years in Italy, and a year in France. And I was living in Paris, and I got offered a job at Woi Woi, teaching at Brisbane Water Secondary College, with a bit of a rough school, which I really loved. But I came, and the last teacher in gets the crappiest class, and I had crappy classes. And I've been living the dream in Europe for 5 years, and I'm like, oh my goodness, and I'm going to quit teaching. But I said, you know what? I want to get the student council. And I'd had the student council when I'd taught in Western Sydney and the Hills District before, and on the other school on the Central Coast. So I got the student council, but I used to tramp the student council around to various locations. But I also taught Aboriginal studies, so I'd tramp primarily our female Aboriginal leaders around to various events across the community. But I think a really important thing is that women in regional communities particularly don't get to see any leaders hands-on in the flesh. But I used to see Deborah O'Neill, and Deb O'Neill's a state senator, and Deb used to say to me, Liesl, why don't you join the Labor Party? Oh yeah. And when I changed from basketball to sailing, I had more time, as I said. And so I joined the Labor Party on Monday nights. So Monday nights once a month, I used to go with all the oldies down to the local club. But I just know, and I didn't really know at that stage, that Labor values and Labor policy sort of comes from the grassroots background in that space. And I just joined the Labor Party because I wanted to give back to my community and not be a selfish athlete. And then when the local member of parliaments, and Deb used to say, once I joined, she said, you should do a leadership, you should get on council row. And I've always said, I've got sport. But then when there was no sailing in the 2020 Paralympic Games, because the popular sports get in and the sports that aren't growing get kicked out, sailing got kicked out. And so the local member, and this is the tipping point. What is your tipping point? The local member of parliament's letter came in the post to say she was resigning because she had cancer. And I, instead of recycling that letter, I kept that letter. Like, it makes me joyful, cry, whatever now. I knew my life was going to change. And then Deb said, Liesl, are you going to do it? I'm like, oh my goodness, Deb, and she said, well, you've got the weekend to decide. We're going to launch you on Monday if you're going to do it. It's like, oh my goodness, like, I'm a high school teacher, and like, my framework of safety, and our framework of safety is such a thing, and to step off that edge. So I'm like, I just sweated it out over the weekend. I went over to Deb's house, had a discussion about what it would be. Deb used all the right persuasion things to try and convince me. But I'm like, you know what have I got to lose? Oh. And so on Monday, I was launched as the candidate. Like, oh my God, like, it was not my ambition in life at all. And it wasn't my goal. And it was like, oh my God, here we go. And so then I was the candidate, and I had to get a new jacket and put on a posh thing and go and talk on the television about policy, which I knew nothing about. So, yeah.
Oh my God. So I'm just going to dig a couple of things there. So how long were you a member of the party before you were a candidate?
Probably 4 years. Like, I didn't go every single meeting, but 4 years. Yep. And I went to various other things, and I represented Kathy Smith at a couple of schools, but it was not my intention to be the candidate. So
yeah, and I
yeah.
just asked that because I hear, God, if I had $1 every time people go, oh, I wish I'd got started earlier. You have to be a member of a party for 15 years before you get in that. And it's just not, maybe that was the case a quarter of a century ago. It's not the case now. And there are people in the federal parliament who joined a party 12 weeks before they ended up being a candidate. So again,
Yep.
don't let that stop you not being a member of a party currently. So
yeah,
you
and I agree. And I just, from a story locally, so when we didn't have a federal candidate and Lucy Wicks was the Liberal Party member and we needed a Labor federal candidate, and it's like, oh my goodness, Liesl's name was the only one who was sort of recognising the community, saying, oh, Liesl, are you going to run for federal? It's like, oh my God, I've done my whole time down at the AIS. I don't need to drive to Canberra. I'm quite content with my life and I don't need to make it any bigger at this point in time. And Dr. Gordon Reid appeared. His grandmother was in the Labor Party with me, and I knew Gordon had always been interested in politics. I'd had a couple of phone calls, and Gordon put his hand up. I'm like, hallelujah. But Gordon wasn't in the party for very long. He had been in Young Labor, and he'd come back, and he now represents us at the federal parliament. So you don't have to be in there for long.
There we go. So don't let that be the handbrake, I guess, is the is the lesson. And Women for Election is always happy to introduce our alumni to the party that they want to be introduced to. We've done that. So okay, so you had a hot minute to decide to run. You decided to say yes. You bought the red jacket by the sound of it.
white jacket with a red glitter top from St. Vinny's on the inside. How's that?
There we go. Again, breaking more tropes just there. And then you were elected. Like, was that the first? You were elected the first time you ran.
Yeah, so it was a by-election, which wasn't a normal, like that. So that was halfway between the election periods. Labor didn't run candidates in Manly or the North Shore. So Labor, I was very, very lucky. Like having the whole backup of the party behind you in a by-election is really a different way of actually going it than going on your own when everybody's competing for Labor Party resources. I had the Young Labors, I had everybody, I had ministers. Like I had, like, for me, ready, this is a really key tipping point for me. When the Labor women came to door knock for me, like, and I was probably the most outspoken and the most political in my friendship group, most likely to be in a protest. When the Labor women came to door knock for me, and I got them to come to Bogan Road in Ettalong, I'm like, oh my goodness, these are my people. It was like I'd found my tribe. Like, it was like I'd left basketball and I was sailing with blokes, and then I'd found these women again who are passionate. It's like, this is okay. That was really what makes it okay along the way. Yeah.
Settled your nerves somewhat.
Yeah.
I think, and I've got to make a comment there that the New South Wales Parliament at this point in time it feels like that when you walk into it, the presence of so many women and the presence of the collaboration within the party and across party lines. I wish more people saw and understood, because that inspires more involvement as a consequence. And you're a big part of the reason that collaboration is there too, Liesl. So, but let's talk. So you're elected, you've been elected, and tell me, over those that since you have been elected, you have achieved a lot for your community. But what is it that comes to mind in terms of what you're most proud of in terms of your contribution?
I just need to go back one step. When you get elected and you go to this thing called the Parliament of New South Wales or wherever, the council chambers or the federal parliament, it's like going to outer space, because it's like nowhere you've ever been before. And I'd only ever been there once because my commerce kids won a competition. Like, so I'm into this place where I've never ever been before, and all the rules and all the blah blah, like those things of a million centuries are from a long time ago. But the wraparound support network of the people around you is what lifts you and carries you through that first few weeks and months. So and one of those wraparounds was Sophie Kotsis, who's now, I'm so proud of Sophie. She's amazing. She's a little Greek migrant. She's about this big. And she is now the Minister for Industrial Relations and Workplace Safety. But at that time, she was the Shadow Minister for Disability Inclusion. And so I got elected and the Invictus Games were coming the next year. And so in Sydney 2000 at the Paralympics, the wheelchair users couldn't get onto the Harbour Bridge. So I said to Soph, we're going to run a campaign. We're in opposition, so we don't hold the purse strings. We're going to run a campaign to get wheelchair access to the Harbour Bridge in time for the Invictus Games. So Sophie and I would go down and we'd have a group of my mates in wheelchairs at the bottom of the Harbour Bridge in North Sydney before Parliament, like at 7:30 in the morning, with Sophie with the megaphone going, "What do we want? Access to the bridge. When do we want it?" Now we've got thousands of people to sign a petition, and now we've got access to the Harbour Bridge. So that's
Amazing.
a huge, like, and then on Facebook, the people from Gosford said that doesn't help the people of Gosford. So, but that's that's the world we're going into, and you have to have a thick skin with those words on the Facebook, because some of them don't come from a space of love or truth.
Well, yeah, and you're not going to please all of the people all of the time. And that is a big part about politics, but it's also a big part of everyone's career all the time. So it's not like it's so different from what we might be doing every day as well.
Yeah.
So, well, then back, in terms of your community and what you've managed to achieve since you've been in that state chamber, what is it that comes to mind as the things you're most proud of?
It's really interesting. Like, this shouldn't be the greatest joy, but getting an upgrade to the Woy Woy Wharf is just this amazing achievement. Like, we just had this daggy old wharf where the ferry came all the time. Now we've got a posh new wharf. Like, who would think that that's important? And then the council, just before COVID, the council said they're going to knock down Pelican Park. And I don't know if you've ever been to Woy Woy, but Pelican Park is this gorgeous thing in front of Fisherman's Wharf, and all the kids play there. It's got this fenced area. And I'm like, the community does not want to lose this park. And we were in administration at the time, so we did a whole bunch of protests and things. And now we've got Pelican Park reinvigorated and beautiful. So it's just, they're not big things, they're just small things that the community appreciates. Like, and I think every day in it as an MP, there's all these like glamorous things, but I think the work that is most satisfying and the people appreciate is doing the work that they need done on a local scale. So people come to you, like, there's all this glamour in the Parliament and everything else, and the policy and the big bucks, billions of dollars, but realistically people come into the MP's office when all the other systems in government have let them down, and you've got to work out how you can connect and help them with the problem, or at least take them on a journey of support in the hope that you can help them with the problem. And I think after 7 years, but the biggest gratitude across the community comes from me just doing that individual helping of people in their lives, and the relationship you have with people. I've got a homeless man at the moment who was on the street and who's now in hospital with mesothelioma, and he wants me to speak at his funeral because of the work I did helping him and a group of people from his little homeless enclave get into housing and into jobs. So it's the little bits that are really the game changers in your heart.
Yes, I totally believe that. And again, that is a very accessible thing to, again, because women are doing this work in the community all the time, but not necessarily as an elected member, saving the park, campaigning, advocating on an issue. So
I might also add, and a lot of that also is the stuff that you do behind the scenes. So Parliament looks like question time and a battleground, but a lot of the stuff behind the scenes is so important. So they said to me, you should become the Minister for Disability Inclusion. But from the beginning, I've said I don't want to be the minister, because as the minister, you give all the wheelchair stuff to the wheelchair lady, whereas now I can actually work on every single portfolio to make all aspects of life, or government and state government life, accessible. So we've got some really amazing things in housing happening. We've got some great things in health, got some really good things in employment. And even now, like, I opened up an accessible park down in Liverpool where we've got these kayaks that provide access to the river that's all wheelchair accessible. So what I can do that nobody sees, like, it's not glamorous, but a lot of the work you do, that's attitudinal shift across government about inclusion of people with disabilities.
Absolutely. And the inspiring work, you're inspiring people that you don't even know. That's part of it as well. There's those in your community, but there's those you don't know, you'll never meet. That feel that if you can do it, maybe they can do it too. And
it was really, like, I remember when I first got elected, I've now learned you don't answer the phone at 7 o'clock in the office. But this guy rang and said, like, I'm a blind guy and I live in Orange. Thank you for representing us in the Parliament. I'm like, whoa. But like, just having that voice of someone, like, especially with diversity, you're representing a diverse group that you don't even know about, that need a voice to be in that space.
Yes, completely. And just, I guess, a shout out to some work that Tanya and I are doing at Women for Election at the moment. We're working with the Disability Leadership Institute to write a specific training module for women with disabilities, be it neurodiverse, be it physical and so forth, to train them on how to run for public office. So, and that's going to be led by trainers who are living with a disability in some way, who have run for office before. So their lived experience is going to be passed on. So because we need more representation in our councils and chambers. So all right, one more question from me, and then I'm going to pass it to our attendees. I mean, you've been in the Parliament for a few years now, and I'm curious, firstly, to see if you have noticed a change in diversity of those elected members or staffers as well, or if you've seen no change, but also why it's important to you and the work that you do outside of your normal MP role to encourage more diversity as well.
Absolutely. And for me, the diversity, like women is my big key thing. But like when I first got in, my jam, when I first got in, like across the other side of the chamber was just men in blue suits. Like it was just a sea of men in blue suits. And also a little bit of women behaving badly, which was I was not comfortable with. And like, as I said before, I was quite a feminist coming in, but not hardcore. But in there, I've just found a place in the Parliament where I did there's not that much professional development for members of Parliament, but one thing I did was a group called Next 25, and it was a group of mixed gender. It was a really lovely group, and I kept the group together. We had coffee, and then we had dinner, and then we had a Christmas party, and at the end of the Christmas party, there were 4 women having a drink, and we said, we should do something like this for women, and we were Leslie Williams from the Liberals, Jenny Leong from the Greens, Helen Dalton, who's an independent down in the Riverina, and myself. So 4 different women. And we've now set up a course we've run our 3rd iteration in the New South Wales Parliament called Transforming the New South Wales Parliament. And we're running that course hopefully in Western Australia and looking to expand that into the Pacific. And it's actually a course where all the women come together from across politics and just get to know, and I think get to love each other at a heart-based level. And it really is a game changer. So for me, the steps of what you don't know what you're going to do in there, and there's opportunities to take journeys where your heart, like, feel brave enough to put your hand up, but feel brave enough when you get in there to go on your heart journey to get you to a destination that you don't even know what it is. And so that has then made a much safer space for women. So this time around, we ran an induction for women in the Parliament, and the women in the Parliament just said, oh, this is just so nice. And it was like, we knew that it was so different to last time around. So it really has made the women from across the parties a lot more collaborative from what they had been in the past, and also just, I think, strengthening that connection between women, which makes our Parliament better and makes us more able to zoom forward quicker. And that's including women from lots of diverse backgrounds, which is just lovely culturally.
Well, thank you for the work that you're doing in the Parliament, and it's so important to our organisation. We support women to run. We want to assist more and more women across the country at all levels of government. We want to lift the female candidate pool. It's so important to us to know that should they get elected, that there are support and mechanisms in the Parliament there to mentor, keep safe, and to just, assist them on their political journey. I feel a fiduciary responsibility to know that organisations like what you're involved with in the New South Wales Parliament are there. So thank you for that work. Makes me sleep better at night. Yeah,
no, and it is. And connecting with Women for Election. And also we've got a group called Pathways Politics for Women, which in New South Wales is running out of the University of New South Wales, but we're running that now across Australia. So there's lots of different ways that we're supporting women on their journey. So don't be scared to reach out and put your finger in and reach out to people. Like, we're here to help you. We're here to help you. Like, if you see a member of Parliament you absolutely admire, except if they're a minister, which makes their lives pretty crazy and busy, reach out and say hello and ask to maybe have a mentoring session with them, like have a little one-on-one session with them. Like, that's what we're here for. We're here to take people on the journey and make Australia a better place.
That's great advice. And I have only ever had people say yes to that too. So you never know until you ask.